We have a lot to go over today, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So this is Learning Allies webinar, A Crystal Ball for Blind and Low Vision Students, a glimpse into your first semester at college. I'm Katie Otaggio. I'm the Engagement Operations Manager for Learning Allies College Success Program. I'm a white woman with light brown hair down to about my shoulders. I'm wearing a red shirt with some small blue flowers all over it and a white cardigan sweater and glasses. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Kristen, who's just going to give a little bit of housekeeping items, and then we'll get started.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Mytecki, and I'm the curriculum and content editor for this meeting. I am a white woman. I am blind, and I have longish brown hair, and I am sitting in an office and hoping that my toddler does not find me. For housekeeping items, I just wanted to let you know that at the end of the webinar, we will take questions from the participants, and you can enter questions anytime in the chat panel, but we will answer them toward the end. And when the end comes, you can also use the raise hand feature, which is Alt-Y on a PC, Option-Y on a Mac, or under the More section on the Zoom app of your iPhone. And Katie will now introduce our speakers.
Thanks, Kristen. Also wanted to mention that we are recording this webinar, and after the webinar, we will be sending out the recording a few days after it's done. So I just want to introduce the speakers that we have today. All of them are CSP mentors, so they are part of the CSP program and mentor some of our college students in the program. First is Brylan Rakes. She's going to be our moderator today. Brylan has a BFA in dance and a BA in communications and media studies from Fordham University. She grew up in the small town of Visalia, California, and found her passion for dance performance when she was 8. For 14 years, Brylan trained and performed in various dance styles, including classical, ballet, point, contemporary, and jazz. Brylan was also the AT&T Spotlight performer on ABC's Dancing with the Stars. She performed alongside Emmy-nominated dancer and choreographer Derek Huff. After completing her undergraduate degrees, Brylan relocated to Palo Alto, where she is pursuing a certificate in business administration from Foothill College. In her spare time, she enjoys Pilates, yoga, and long walks outside with her fiance, Albie. Next, we have Dora. Dora has a BA in psychology and an MA in vocational rehabilitation from the University of Northern Colorado. She currently works for the Orientation Center for the Blind in California. She became blind in 2010 due to retinal detachments and glaucoma. She is grateful because her blindness has given her numerous life-enriching opportunities. In her spare time, she enjoys spending time with her family and being of service to others. Next is Kinsey Lynch. Kinsey has a BS in business administration from Drexel University. He lives his life with the mindset that his lack of vision should never hinder his personal or professional growth. In college, while thriving in the classroom, Kinsey undertook 3 paid internships spanning market research, communications, and enterprise marketing. He also served as president of Drexel's Rotary Interact Club, focusing on civic engagement throughout Philadelphia. Kinsey is currently a client relations associate at Vanguard Investment Group. In his free time, he enjoys long distance running with Achilles International, an organization that provides guides for athletes with disabilities. He also enjoys pulling for any Philadelphia sports team, traveling, and spending time with friends and family. And last but not least, Preston Radke. Preston has a BA in public relations and creative writing and an MA in emerging media design and development from Ball State University. He is an assistive technology specialist at Teachers College, Columbia University. Additionally, he is an adjunct lecturer within the School of Communications and Information at Rutgers University. Advocacy and equity are the driving passions behind his life and work. Preston's passions include digital equity, service dog advocacy, and greater independence throughout the disabled world. In his spare time, Preston enjoys traveling, listening to records, and playing with his seeing eye dog, Burton. And with that, I will pass it over to Brylan and we can get started.
Hey guys, super excited about this webinar. So I will just jump into the first question. Okay, so everyone, how did you prepare for college during the weeks before your first semester? Anyone Anyone can jump in.
I can go first if you want. My name is Kenzie Lynch. Again, very happy to be here with all of you tonight. And I'm sure you guys are in store for some big things in the fall or whenever you decide to attend college. The first, when I knew I was going to Drexel, my attention turned to finishing my senior year of high school, finishing everything with, my classwork in that area. But once the summer arrived, my focus became prepping for life in a dorm. I knew I'd be living in a dorm with about, at the time, it was at least 50 other 18-year-olds. So some of the things I did to prepare for that, among the obvious, for shopping and getting all your dorm essentials, were doing my own laundry at home, all those good stuff. I reached out to my disability resources the instant I applied to my first batch of classes, my Office of Disability Resources. That was one of the first calls I made when I figured out my classes, and one of the first stops I made during the orientation process. So that's definitely the biggest thing. And I would say that the best way to be successful right away would be to engage your disability resources folks, leverage your resources available to you, and make the most of your time before your classes start.
Hi, everyone. My name is Preston. Echo what Kinsey said, thank you so much for coming up today. Hopefully we can act as good resources for you. So very similar to what Kinsey did, just want to add on a bit. I grew up in Chicago and I went to college in Ball State, which is kind of north central Indiana, about 4.5 hours away from my hometown. So I had never really visited the area before. So about 3 weeks before my first class started, I actually moved in quite a bit early and just kind of got oriented to the town and where all my classes would be, just so I would be able to get that out of the way, because there's a lot of stress with starting college with classes and then learning, the routes and all that. So thanks.
Hi everyone, my name is Dora Lopez, and along with my colleagues here, I would like to stress that I also signed up with the Disability Support Services, and that was one of my main priorities. So basically, that was during the enrollment process, and along with that, I just made sure that they knew what some of my challenges were, which at the time, believe it or not, I didn't have a laptop. So it was really important for me. I was working with the disabilities, that I was working with the Disability Support Services, but also with the Department of Rehab. So while my laptop was coming in, I did make sure that I built really good relationships with the disability support so that I could, use the Access Center, which is where they have computers with different assistive technologies to my advantage as much as possible. I also worked with the testing center because I knew I would be working with them a lot as far as taking my exams in different formats, and also orienting myself to the campus. So I first completed my training center at the Colorado Center for the Blind, and then a couple months after I attended community college. So I think those were some of the things that helped me make use of the resources at the community college.
Yeah, those are awesome points, guys. And just a little tidbit from me, never think, oh, I don't need accommodation. Like you make a huge list of all the accommodations that you could possibly need. And then maybe after your first or second semester, you realize, oh, maybe I don't need that. Or, so never just say, oh, I don't need this accommodation. It might come in handy as you enter college. So next question for you guys. Is there anything you either over-prepared or wish you were more prepared for when you arrived? Anyone?
I'll go first. Oh, I'm sorry, Dora.
Okay, I'll go first. So I think for me, like I mentioned, the computer and the assistive technology skills were not as strong as I would have liked. And as I found out later on, they were going to be essential. So that's what I would recommend all of you to do, is to really strengthen your assistive technology skills, your job, whatever assistive technology you're using, to really work on those. so that you know you're able to do everything as much as you can, just because sometimes we do run into accessibility issues, whether it comes to signing up for classes or whatever the systems might be. Sometimes they're not always accessible, and those are just some of the barriers I encounter. So just would really encourage everybody to work as much as they can on their typing skills, their computer skills, and also really get as much time as you guys can walking around the campus, so that you guys can get, you know, the routes that you guys need down as fast as possible. And that's my tidbit.
Yeah, totally. Getting your route planned out. That's something I talk about with my mentees. It's super important. So anyone else?
I think for me, the biggest thing, preparation really, because I mean, you're going to have things your first year of college that, you know, if you look back down the way, like, ah, man, if I knew then what I know now, right? I think that's the, you know, one of the, no matter how old you get, you're always going to wonder 10 years from now what you could have done better in any aspect of life. But the one thing that I wish I was more aware of, especially in my college's case, was the pace at the first year in particular. So my college was, it actually wasn't a normal semester school. It was a quarter system school. So instead of terms being their normal, you know, the length of a semester, my terms went about 10 to 12 weeks, depending on the class. So the pace was pretty aggressive early on, especially if you weren't acclimated to it, you know, at any other point. So just in addition to being on my own and learning the routes, learning how to be an actual, you know, to cook, clean, do your own laundry, do your own everything independently. Well, you know, away from home, I should say, more appropriately, more away from your family dynamic. I think the biggest thing was the pace and being aware that, you know, you have to really be mindful of your time. One of the things I work on with my mentees all the time is before their term starts, we work together to build their schedule so that they're as prepared as possible and they have an idea what to expect, how much they can study, how much they can, you know, go to see their friends and what their classes can look like, so they know how much time they have in between. So that's definitely the biggest thing I would do. Make it, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet, a calendar, an Outlook, make your calendar, make it early, and make the most of it.
Excellent. Yeah, I have like multiple calendars. I have like a refrigerator calendar. I have a digital calendar. I have a paper calendar. And you kind of figure out your own way of doing things as you progress through college, but having those tools is really helpful. So anyone wants to jump in, they can.
Sure. So one of the biggest adjustments for me was the food situation. You know, as I'm sure you know, college dining is not healthy. And I truly did not realize that until I was there, where essentially every single meal I ate was like fast food quality. So then, you know, after a while, it started to show in like my physique and like I didn't have as much energy when I was like trying to work out and all that.
That's really good.
Just something to keep in mind. I would advise learning how to cook or acquiring a kitchen if you can in college, so you can stay healthy.
Yeah, that's can be so easily overlooked because you just want to like eat something really quick, go to class. But after a while, you will start to be like, oh, I'm not thinking as well. Like I'm not doing well. Like I need to eat better. So that's a great one. Should we move on, everybody? Okay. So the next question is, describe a situation in which you really needed to act for yourself. I'm sure we all have some of these moments from college.
Only one.
You can share maybe the most impactful one.
Yeah.
Sure.
In my case, I was the first totally blind student to go through my curriculum at my college. So I figured there wasn't a one crazy instant my very first year. I experienced it later on in college. But the entire first year of college prepared me for what was to come in terms of making sure you go up to your professors ahead of time, whether it be, you know, before class, after class, what have you, building that relationship, making sure they can put a face to the name, because in reality, it's not like high school where, you know, the teachers are there, they're going to watch your every move and monitor whether or not you're coming to class. making sure you have those relationships so professors know who you are, know what to expect out of you. And you set that standard early and you set it often because, people talk, professors talk, especially in your college. So if you do well in one area, it'll carry over to others as well. And it helps you're building your brand from the time you start college. So I would definitely say the first year of college was the biggest advocacy for me, growth in that area in particular. Just learning how to talk to professors in writing, in person, and in general.
Yeah, professional correspondence should be its own course, like in and of itself, because it's an art form. Like, asking for help and communicating can be hard, but it's easy once you get the hang of it, for sure.
Another thing that I would like to add to that is to also work on managing your time really well. In regards to advocacy, that relates to, for me, for example, I had some math tutors, a reader, and a scribe. So I really had to, find somebody that was a good reader when it came to math. So I'd had to do my own, interviewing and really figuring out, is this a good match for me? So that was one. And as well as making sure that their availability matched mine. So I think just getting ahead of these things and really advocating for what you need and how you need these services would be really helpful. And to also know that the Department of Rehab helps provide additional support besides with what your college can offer. Because I know they do have some tutoring and services along with the disability supports, but just know that there are more services. You just have to ask, and it doesn't hurt to ask as long as you're gaining more information. So yeah,
that's awesome. Ask and you shall receive, people. Like, please ask. You'll be so surprised at how people will want to help you. Don't be afraid of, the majority of people are great and want to help. So yes, ask and you shall. That is an excellent one.
Yeah, I would just say one specific example that pops to mind was I had an economics professor part of my junior year who had never worked with a blind person before, and he came from a culture that kind of viewed blind individuals differently. So as you know, in economics, there's lots of bars and bar graphs and charts. And he flat out told me that he doesn't know how to teach me and how I can succeed in the class. And that was kind of a punch to the gut in some regards. I didn't have a lot of confidence going forward after that, but I explained to him the different tactile options available, be it working with disability services to make braille graphs or making graphs just out of like wiki sticks or other kind of DIY materials. And I worked with the TA for the class and just for one-on-one assistance, and we're able to have a successful experience. So I would just say, be willing to dispel any notions or kind of rooted prejudices that your professors may have, and then try to be resourceful to kind of seek out those tactile or non-traditional delivery methods for instruction.
Absolutely. Yeah. Being a self-advocate is super prevalent in college. It's high school, they're really helping you along, but it's really up to you in college. So you gotta get out there and get it done. So that's really good stuff, guys. All right, I'll go on to the next one. All right, so what surprised you the most during your first year? Biggest surprise after your first year?
I think I mentioned the pace earlier, so I won't belabor a point. That definitely was the most, surprising aspect. But to a point earlier, the food aspect of college, on a more lighthearted note, food was definitely a surprise. I went to school in Philadelphia, so there was a lot of options in terms of food, but the food that was available to students, not necessarily the greatest. So that was definitely an adjustment right there. But I will tell you this, while the food wasn't necessarily the greatest, a lot of the restaurants I went to in college and a lot of the experience that I had around food in college, believe it or not, were where I had some of my most fond memories, and even to this day, some of my friends from college and I will laugh at, you know, "Hey, remember this guy in the dining hall did X, Y, and Z? He used to always do da da da." So I would say that's definitely like one of the big. It's possible to eat healthy in college. It's possible to manage that aspect of your college experience. But, you know, don't take yourself too seriously right out the gate. Don't be too hard on yourself right away when it comes to, you know, getting acclimated to the college life, because anyone who, I'd tell you, a good chunk of people who've gone to college, they've had, you know, long nighters, they've had, you know, instant ramen or all of these XYZ college foods. It's a part of the process. And when you get to be, you know, 30, 40, 50, looking back, it's one of those things that you can say, hey, I've been there, I've done that, you know, and I remember, you know, when I was doing this as an 18-year-old. So enjoy the process of everything.
Did anybody eat just straight Ben and Jerry's out of the carton in their beds? Anyone? Me.
During COVID, maybe.
Nothing wrong with that.
Hey.
Eat that during and sometimes colleges will have these, like, we had a midnight breakfast and they had this gigantic breakfast spread at like from like 9 to midnight during finals week. It was pretty cool.
We had
But
a cookie place connected to my apartment complex, directly underneath, where you could get cookies, like, and it was called Insomnia. So they didn't close until 5
Yeah,
a.m.
they have that everywhere.
Oh my goodness. It was, to this day, I'm like, I'm still burning the calories off of that. And I love the run. I'm still burning the calories off.
that's amazing. That's so funny. Yeah, those are really good.
I would say that, and this goes for everyone, not just people who are blind, but I would say one of the biggest, I wouldn't say surprises or adjustments, but the breadth of people that you will run into. So I went to high school in suburban Chicago, which is very middle class. It's not the most diverse place, but it is also like, it is ethically diverse, but there's just a lot of people are kind of the same economic class, the same race. But when I went to college, I was exposed to a whole different variety of people from different countries, different sexual orientations, even different ages. And I think in some regards, me being exposed to those different groups of people and learning their cultures and learning how to interact with them was more impactful than what I actually learned in the classroom.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I think I have similar experience where I just like learned how tough my industry was and how thick of a skin you need to have. That was one of the biggest takeaways from college for me, is like, the arts are like intense, and maybe I want to be in the arts, but anyway, those are really good things, guys. I guess I'll go on to the next one. So talk about a memorable social interaction or about how life changed socially for you, referring to your college experience.
So for me, I spent college, my first year, I was in a learning community, which is a combination of a bunch of different backgrounds of people from, kind of how Preston mentioned, all over, different socioeconomic backgrounds. And that was my dorm experience. And then throughout college, I actually joined a social fraternity. So the stories that I can tell, I could probably take a webinar doing that. But I'll tell you, I'll emphasize Preston's point. A lot of times what you learn in college, it isn't just limited to the classroom. I think one of the biggest things college is here to teach you is how to be an active learner and learn as much about other people as you can at such a young age. Because the reality is, I think I read a study a while back, you make a bulk of your friends before you're 30 years old, thereabouts. And that, I think that's very accurate. Some of my lifelong friends I met, you know, out at different parties or different mixers or different things like that. Great experience to this day that I'll always remember. So being an active learner and being willing to listen as much as you are willing to talk in terms of meeting new friends, big aspect. And don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone, your box, you know, and thinking, oh, if you have a visual impairment, then, you know, this may not be for me, because you never know until you try when it comes to being sociable and you know, kind of taking that step towards making some lasting connections professionally and personally.
That's excellent. Yeah, totally.
Was some of my, I guess one of my most memorable social activities at the university that I attended was being a part of a awareness group through the National Federation of the Blind. And we were able to host a booth along with many other community resources, and they all gathered at the university. And it was just very neat, going up to the other booths and then welcoming other people into our booths. And just kind of, raising awareness about visual impairment and the different things, right, people with disabilities could do. So I think that was definitely one, not only because it helped, us raise more awareness, but it gave us an opportunity to, mingle and interact with the community at large, the university, and just learn about other resources. So that was pretty neat.
Wow, cool. Love that.
I would just quickly say that my first 2 years of college were a bit, I was a lot more academically oriented my freshman and sophomore year, which is absolutely nothing wrong with that, but I didn't have the best social life my first years of college. But then probably my junior year, I got a lot more into kind of like the independent art scene at my college. So I befriended a lot of like poets and writers, and I became friends with members of like garage rock bands and all that. And I got to go to like their concerts and their art exhibits. So I think that really kind of transformed my outlook on life and kind of transformed my social, I guess, sphere in college, as someone who had all these friends that shared all my interests I didn't have like the year before. And that was simply because one of the few friends I had made my freshman, sophomore year was also part of that circle. And I finally kind of accepted their invitations to like go to their events and hang out with them.
Yeah. One of my biggest regrets is that I honestly didn't have the bandwidth or the time just because of the double major in my dance schedule, but I wish I would have like been more involved in some kind of club or student organization. Because after my bachelor, I did community college stuff. And so was more involved there, but I was like, what if I would have been involved during my bachelor's? Like that would have been amazing. So that is important to get involved when you can. Okay, next one. All right. What was the hardest aspect of your first year and how did you get through it?
Yes, this is Dora. I think one of the hardest aspects for me during the first year was getting used to the schedule. I would wake up pretty early, like 4 a.m., and then ride the bus to community college and, stayed there past 5 p.m. working with my tutors and stuff like that. So I would get home at night again, have dinner, work on homework, and do it all over again the next day. So it was pretty rigorous, and that pretty much helped me build my work ethic. I think that was the thing that taught me how to have discipline when it came to my academics. But, similar to Preston, I also learned that it was important to nurture the social aspect. So it was along creating those balances for me.
That's great.
I would say that I had some really bad neighbors in my dorm, so they were very loud. They were very entitled, not to like stereotype or anything, but they were athletes, so they kind of had a chip on their shoulder. So they're very loud. They were very inconsiderate of the other students on the floor. So there were many nights where I couldn't sleep before I could do the exam, or they would leave messes in the bathroom if we all had to share. And that was a little frustrating because like we'd talk to the RA about it, and he'd be like, well, I really can't do anything. Because he felt that like he would say things to them and they wouldn't listen. So it was just a little frustrating because everyone knew that there were issues with people on our floor, but no one could or wanted to kind of get through to them.
Oh, that's so frustrating.
I would say definitely the cleanliness part, big time. I'm being in a dorm, communal bathroom. Don't miss that at all. That's definitely one. Second, Dora with the schedule as well. But I think for me, the biggest thing, I mentioned it earlier, but stepping outside of your comfort zone, being away from home for the first time, or being kind of out of high school, for the first time, or wherever you may be coming from, into a new environment like that, having like the willingness and being bold to step outside of your comfort zone, that was definitely like the hardest part for me. My first term, I was actually actively training for a Chicago Marathon. And I was actually very stressed out academically. I don't think I've ever done worse that first term, but I learned so much about what it would take in terms of making friends, in terms of making actual connections personally, in terms of, I like to be involved in civic engagement in terms of being a part of that. But in making my college experience better, it would require me to step out of my normal kind of area that I was comfortable with, and really try some things that I hadn't done before. So having that boldness early on, and, not being afraid to try new things, and enjoying, like I said earlier, enjoying the process was definitely the biggest thing for me early on.
Yes, there's a famous quote that says the only constant is change. So I love that, because sometimes we can be really like struggling as we're transitioning or changing, and kind of, if you can take the emotion out of that, just realize I'm going to adjust in like a week or 2 weeks, and like I'll be okay. Because I just, like, my freshman year, I was somewhat sheltered growing up, and then I moved to New York City from California by myself, and I loved the independence, but also was like freaking out because I was just like, this is so different, and I was worried about the workload, and I wanted to do so good, but it was really, really hard to adjust. So if I was just less emotional, I probably would have adjusted faster. But anyway, last question. Does anybody want to add anything, or you want me to move on to the last question? Does that sound good?
I would say, to your point, like, all the problems you have in college, they're not permanent, issues like that, unless you're doing something crazy, breaking a law or doing something wild you're not supposed to. The problems you're having with, like, oh my goodness, I have a crazy project due. They're such short-term problems, right? Don't let the little things get you away from the big picture, to your point. You know what I mean? That's definitely.
They feel like they feel like the end of the world.
Right.
I will say though, college is a great practice and litmus test for the real world. So while, like Kinsey was saying, a lot of the issues that you may have in college are typically short term, it's a great time for you to kind of set up practices that you can apply later on in your life to make sure you don't run into those same issues that you ran into before, like time management, learning how to talk to people.
Oh, absolutely.
Navigate on your own. So while a lot of them may be temporary, if you don't like now in college, that's the time to learn how to deal with them and address them, so they don't kind of bite you in the butt when the stakes are higher, when you're kind of out in the real world working.
Oh, totally. Like, I have so many regrets about like not going to the writing center for like every paper, because I totally could have, or not doing like mock interviews as I'm trying to like start a career as like a full-on grown-up. It's like, I could have been doing like mock interviews like once a month, and like, so realizing these things now, it's really important to have good habits and have good practices in college and stuff. All right, so go to the last question. What is one piece of advice you would give to new students?
Enjoy the process. I mentioned it. I know I've mentioned it like 3 times during this call, but you only get to go through and do this first year once. So, enjoy it should be one of the best times you'll have, in most cases, it's one of the more memorable experiences you'll have down the road. And you don't want to, not just in college, but you don't want to let life go by and you just don't enjoy being a part of it. That's one thing I like to be remembered for. College is a time when you build your own brand. I want people to always remember, for me, that, you have a positive outlook, you're a hard worker, you have a good work ethic, but your outlook is huge in your success. And for me, rather than getting frustrated by the negatives, in my job we have a phrase: celebrate the red. You enjoy the process, you learn from your mistakes, you get better as you go, and you get better moving forward. And when the time comes to have fun, you have fun. Time comes to work, you work. But it's all a process. You know, you got into college for a reason, and make the most of it.
That is so motivational. I feel like ready to like, I'm not even in college and I'm like, yes, let's do it.
I would say two-pronged advice here. Number one is try to stay balanced. So when I went to college, I heard that there's like the perfect triangle, is what it's called. You want to make sure that your social life, your physical life, and your academic life are in perfect harmony. And I would actually also throw in your mental health as well there, because if one of those is off, then they're kind of going to all be off kilter. And when you're in college, there's so many different things that can make one of those suffer, be it feeling left out in social situations, eating so much that your physical health is going down, or just the rigorousness of your college classes. So just try to maintain a healthy balance. And the final bit of advice kind of builds off of what Kinsey was saying. Honestly, take advantage of this time in your life, because as someone who graduated college about 4 years ago, that is, when you're in college, that's probably the most free, and you don't have as many responsibilities, and you have so many opportunities at your fingertips, be it joining different clubs, studying abroad, things that you will not have access to when you're kind of older, when you have kids, when you have a 9-to-5 job. And it's just the perfect time to kind of experience new things and let them kind of shape who you will, later on become.
That's great. Yeah, study. I wish I would have. Excellent.
A piece of advice, sorry, this is Dora. I would have to have confidence in yourselves and to just go out there and try new things, right? So this kind of goes along with the social aspect and the academic aspect. You might not feel confident at the beginning, but just put yourself out there and ask questions, show up, and work hard. Get ready to work hard, but definitely have confidence in yourself, because you can definitely do it. Right? If we've done it, you guys can definitely do it. Just get ready to believe in yourself and to work really hard.
Yes. Excellent, guys. Great stuff in there. And I think that's all the questions. If anybody wants to add anything, feel free. Any last words?
Oh, yes. Just one more thing that I just thought of. So college is great and wonderful. Take advantage of the opportunities, like I said, but it is difficult. Like, I'm not going to try and sugarcoat it. It's meant to be difficult. And the one good thing is, if you're having difficulty in social situations or academically, you are by no means the first person that has had those difficulties. I'd be willing to bet that lots of your classmates would probably be having the same struggles that you may be having, be it academically or getting to know people. So just know that, there are people out there who are experiencing the same struggles that you may be experiencing, and consequently, there will also be older people or mentors out there who can advise you and assist you and give you advice as to how to navigate those difficult situations, because they had to face them as well when they were in college. So.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Everybody has stuff going on. Like, no matter how happy or perky they look like in the room, like if you're sitting alone, you're struggling, like everybody's got something going on. So yeah, you're not alone. That's a great way to wrap this up.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Brylan, for doing such a great moderating job again. And thank you, Kinsey, Preston, Dora, for your insight. We really appreciate that. We will now move to the Q&A part of this webinar. As a reminder, you can either submit questions in the chat or you can raise your hand. This is now the time to do that. You can use Alt-Y on the PC, Option-Y on the Mac, or raise hand can be found under the More section of the app in your iPhone. We did get a question in the chat from Teresa. She wants to know, how do you do math as a totally blind person? So either Preston, Kinsey, would you like to talk about that?
Well, I'm not the math whiz, but I'll tell you, because I'm not a math whiz, I'll give you how I tackled it. All right. For me, first off, it depends on the kind of math you're looking at, but it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, where, you know, I would make that known to your disability resources, right? Do you have a math class? I would plan my schedule accordingly, right? Try and get a sense for what you know the environment is like that you're looking at, and never be afraid to ask for help when it comes to whether your college has a math resource center, whether your professor has office hours. There are where there's a will, there's a way. One tool that I use a lot, I use the Perkins Braille. I'm a I like to think very proficient Braille user. I hope so. So I use that a lot to write out equations, and I made it through calculus. I'm a marketing major. So how do I do algebra, to your question?
It's just
Again,
math in general.
Algebras are pretty, I'm sorry, Teresa's question was, how do you do algebra?
Oh, algebra, yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, I can see she had a follow up there, Chris.
Okay, cool.
But to your point, there's different kinds of algebra. What I would say is I would look through either Hadley. Hadley has a lot of great resources for you. Katie Ottagio just posted a great link in the chat. But there are resources available for you to help, and there's different pieces of technology that can help as well.
Just to add on that, your disability service department should have like an assistive technology person who they can assist in preparing materials in an accessible format that could be catered to your needs, be it like if you're taking a math class and there are lots of charts or graphs, they can make those tactile, like I said, just using a drill embosser or Wiki sticks or other kind of tactile tricks. I would honestly take it by a case basis. So I had to take a few math classes. I mentioned the economics course, and that's the one where I had real graphics made for me, but I had to take an advanced algebra course, and I actually did not use my disability services at all. I actually just worked one-on-one with the professor and the TA, and they read the questions to me, and we worked out a way where I could kind of type out the answers in Word, and they interpreted them, and they were able to kind of translate them. So I would say lean on your disability services and be open to kind of creative solutions.
And use the extended time. That was one thing I left out. A lot of times you can get, my college called it an AVL, accommodation verification letter, that had your accommodations available. When it came to math, I always used the extended time. But if professors see that you're willing to try, like a lot of time, not all the time, but in a good chunk of cases, especially if it's a good professor, they'll meet you halfway and try and work with you. But extended time was a game changer in college the entire way. I used it not just my first year, but throughout.
Yep, I used every exam.
Yeah, for sure. We got a question from Tony, who finds learning difficult and was not sure if college is the right thing or the right choice. Do you have any of you have any advice about how to really think about that and to figure it out?
I would say that that's very much so a personal choice. Like none of us up here can say you have to go to college or you shouldn't go to college. Obviously, we all went to college, but there are lots of successful people in this world who didn't go to college. So I would say maybe sit down with your family, your mentors, talk about your goals in life, like where you want to work, what you want to do post high school or whatever stage you're at now, and then figure out if going to college is specifically something that you need to do to accomplish your goals. And then if it is, I would say, then maybe try to work with academic support at whichever college you're going to kind of address some of these learning challenges that you may have, like studying or time management. Because like I said, it's a very personal choice, and we could give you all the advice in the world, but it's in the end, it's up to you to choose your own path.
You could always start at a college. It's, you could take one class and maybe there's some subject you might find, and then you're like, oh, I want to learn more about this. And community colleges can be accessible, like in your local area. You don't have to move, you know, you could stay where you are and just like dip your feet in, and not pay too much either. That would be a good thing if you're not sure.
And to
Another
that point,
Oh, go ahead. I guess.
I was going to say to that point, even if you don't want to go, you know, a full 4-year undergrad, community college can be a lot cheaper if you're still trying to figure out, say, you know, you want to go to college, but you're not sure what you want to do after college. Community college is a great way to knock out your general education classes, get some of the credits out of the way, your free electives, and then you can always come back to a 4-year university down the road.
Yeah, and another thing I wanted to add is, along with the community college idea, is that you might want to consider starting off with like a college skills 101. So they typically cover things like how to read your syllabus, what to expect on your first semester, how do you know, take notes effectively, different topics like that, which you can also find in the Learning Allies' resources. But sorry, there's background noise. But along with that, those are just some of the things that would help you better identify if college is a good path for you.
There's a new website, brand new website.
That's great. Thank you. Yes, our website is collegesuccessbvi.org. We have lots of resources there. And if you're a college student and you aren't signed up with us yet, you can sign up there and even request a mentor. So you could work with one of these wonderful mentors or someone else starting next year. Any other questions?
Tony asked.
Oh yeah, Tony wants to know if their degrees or certifications are better.
Yeah, I would.
I'm sorry, Preston.
Yeah, I would just say it depends what you want to accomplish. So Tony, I don't know what, like I said, I don't know what career you want to go into, but there are some fields where you have to get an undergraduate degree or a master's degrees, and getting a certification isn't really going to cut it. However, there are some fields like web design or some sort of digital production where you can actually get by with just getting kind of like industry specific certifications, which in some regards they'd be a bit cheaper and be a lot quicker than going to school for 4 years. But like I said, it really just depends on what you want to do and kind of what your goals are.
So I actually have both in my line of work. I got my degree in marketing. I swore I'd never work in finance. What do? I work in finance. So, and I wound up getting my Series 7, passing my Series 7 securities exam. And I just recently passed my 63. So I've taken a number of different exams for certifications as well as degrees. And what I'm saying behind that is don't necessarily, just because you're going through college, right? You say you graduate college, you're not sold on what your field is. You're never locked in, especially when you're in your early to mid 20s. You're never locked in to exactly what you're going to wind up doing for the rest of your life. So don't feel like this pressure, like, oh, I have to do exactly this forever because I studied it in college. Like, there's options out there. You have, at the end of the day, when you have a degree, no one can take it away from you. But to your point, though, Preston, depends on what, in Tony's specific case, what you're looking to accomplish, whether you need degrees or certifications.
Yeah, like what I did was I have a bachelor's in communications, and I was just gung-ho ballerina. I wanted to do that professionally. After I graduated, I decided no, and so that's why I did this business certificate. I loved it because I just took a course in almost every aspect of business: accounting, marketing, management, entrepreneurship. What is the last? Just, you get my point. But I didn't know how businesses work, and now I do, and I'm kind of figuring out where I want to go. And LinkedIn has free little courses every month if you want to just continue your education in a less formal way. I want to take a typing course because I'm not a good enough typer. Like, there's things that you can do online for free that can even help you grow as well.
Of course, Tony.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Happy to
So
help.
just to kind of piggyback off of, so we kind of have an idea of what you want to get into. I'd say potentially there are some really awesome, like Brian said, there's some great LinkedIn learning courses in IT, great certifications in that regard. I personally think that if you don't, I think you can actually get by in the IT world depending on where you are at by not getting that CS degree right away. So like if you're working as you are now, I would maybe suggest looking for those kind of certifications or self-paced courses to kind of diversify your tool belt. But that's not to say you can't get those same skills by just going to traditional computer science or computer technology route in college.
Also, I'm a little biased. If everyone had the chance to take a like a financial well-being class, absolutely would recommend if you have any kind of time to do so, because that's just one of the biggest things that especially younger folks, 18 to 30, always seem to to have trouble with. I would always suggest any kind of business or financial well-being class. You understand at least how to manage your own money. It's a great way to start out.
That's another reason why I started this certificate. I took an investments course and a personal finance, and it kind of changed my life, and like in a huge way. We're not taught this in college, or unless you do business or finance, and it's going to set you up for the rest of your life in terms of managing your finances, budgeting, and stuff like that. So that's a really good one.
Any other last questions?
Don't be shy.
I know, I'm just waiting to see if anything comes through.
I always have such a great time on these webinars. So fun.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Honestly, like I remember my first year of college and how excited, like the whole summer before, I found out right before Christmas where I was going. My last day, actually the week I graduated, I figured out who my freshman roommate was in my dorm. Me and him are still friends to this day. He lives across the country from me, and just the awesome time that I had, that those first few years, something that you can't buy that experience. So, an awesome time to be a part of. So I'm really excited for you guys. I'm sure you guys will kill it starting out.
Find your textbooks in alternate formats as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I was like so stressed out because I was trying to get my textbooks, different apps, like in an audio version. And it was really hard because they're not all going to be on one app. So once I'll keep checking for your textbooks. That is really hard.
And be careful of the used ones. If you get used textbooks, you got to be careful because sometimes the professor requires you use a special code for some of your classes. I used to always hate buying used textbooks and then finding out later on, oh my God, I got to buy the new one to use this stupid online resource because I need the unopened packaging. Just be mindful before you start wasting money on books that you're getting the right ones.
And if you do have to buy them, you can always resell them, but that's kind of a hassle. So yeah, figure out what's best.
Leverage your disability resources for that. That's what I did. Towards the end, I got smart and was like, you know what? I'm gonna just tell them, hey, I don't know which one. Let's go this way. You guys can tell me the correct one before I shell out X number of dollars, and do it like that. Also, Tide Pods. If you're in a college dorm, Tide Pods are the king. Tide Pods are awesome.
For the rest of your life, too.
Yeah, for the rest of your life.
You just,
And,
uh,
and Unstoppables, the little pellets. Throw some Unstoppables in there. Tell you what, $1 million, man.
Trader Joe's, I don't know where everyone lives, but Trader Joe's is like the same price no matter where you are in the country. And it's like, it can be healthy. I mean, you can buy the good, unhealthy stuff too, but you're going to get a variety and you're not going to, and it's like small portions, like just for one, because you're feeding yourself. Like, I'm obsessed with Trader Joe's. I think they're an amazing company. So if you can go there and you haven't, you should.
I love
There's
Trader
not
Joe's.
one near me, but Instacart looms large. Even now, I use Instacart, especially now. Actually, you can get the
Yep.
Unstoppables.
Oh, yeah.
Christine, Unstoppables are they're a product that you can put into your laundry, right? They dissolve in water like Tide Pods do. They're like little pellets. You can find them at Target. You might be able to find them on like a DoorDash or like CVS or like a convenience store. But you put them in with your wash. They dissolve with water, and I think they make your clothes smell quite good. But Instacart, you can get like a year membership for like $100. It comes right to your door. You can talk to your shopper while they're picking stuff out. I love Instacart. I don't have Trader Joe's right near me. So in place of that, I would say Instacart is also a solid
Yeah, really, it's good.
deal.
Well, cool. Well, if there are no other questions, I just want to thank all of you for attending our webinar. You can learn more about the College Success Program by visiting us at collegesuccessbvi.org. You can read all of our resources for, without joining the program, just to see what we're all about. We have a number of different categories, from career exploration to living on your own, to learning effectively, and so many more categories of resources. If you would like to work with a mentor this upcoming first or fifth or 15th semester, and you are not a member yet, please just click on or enter on the join link and join us. It takes like 2 minutes. There's no cost, and you can work with a mentor. And you can also have access to our Learning Allies audiobook collection, as well as any of other events that are coming up, which include webinars like this or meetups where you can talk with mentors. So again, to learn more, go to collegesuccessbvi.org. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Best of luck.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.